Washington politicians are at it again, this time trying to seize control of digital currencies. Senator Schiff just laid out a plan that sounds like consumer protection, but let me tell you, it's really a government power grab. If they win, your financial freedom could be gone for good.
Would it be the most basic and fundamental provision that should simply be banned?
Senator, thanks for the question. Short answer is yes, it should be banned. And I'll say, as a former regulator, just 5 or 6 months removed, for 7 years at the commission, I took that responsibility very seriously. The weight of the responsibility as a regulator over markets and ensuring there was no conflict of interest or exposure that me or my family had to the markets I regulated.
And does anyone testifying here today think it's okay, good practice, nothing to see here for high administration officials who have influence over these markets to be able to issue or promote their own personal stable coins, digital currencies of any kind?
Just to be clear, Senator, I agree that it should be banned, should be prohibited.
And I would go further than the administration officials. I would say ban all those actions from any members of the House or Senate. Anyone disagree with that proposition?
Senator, I know this has been a discussion among policymakers. I just wanted to note that for myself, this is admittedly outside my area of expertise, and I see this as a decision for Congress. I just wanted to say that respectfully, Senator.
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope we will make that very decision because I think it's vitally important that we regulate this area. I think the current unregulated or regulation by litigation posture we're in is undesirable for everyone. Doesn't protect consumers, doesn't help legitimate actors in the industry, doesn't provide any certainty or ability to plan or predict or invest. At the same time, the most basic protections we might put in place to protect consumers will be undermined if those that can influence the whole market are in business themselves and able to enrich themselves. But let me move on from the problems that have been documented by the first family's involvement in this business. In what other respects, and I open this up to any of our participants, can we help ensure that consumers are protected? Obviously, there have been some catastrophic failures of companies in this space engaged in fraud. What's the best way to protect consumers so that in the event of a catastrophic failure, they're protected?
Maybe I'll start off, but I think the first is acting. I think the Congress needs to act to fill this regulatory gap. This committee is starting that process of doing that. And we're going to have to, as was mentioned, make sure that we have strong, clear lines between the CFTC and the SEC on how you think the jurisdiction should go. But importantly, each agency brings unique customer protections and important market integrity issues that are going to help fix the problems that you're identifying. So I think you're preaching to the choir here. Everybody on this panel wants to fill this gap right now, and it's up to Congress to act quickly.
Senator, I'll add, in December 22, I testified before this committee shortly after FTX failed. And FTX had one entity that was registered with the CFTC. It had a number of entities globally, over 125. And I said to this committee, of the 125 plus entities, about 2 or 3, 2 I think in Asia and 1 here in the US, Ledger X, which was registered and regulated by the CFTC, was viable, well-managed, and had value after that bankruptcy. So after that fantastic bankruptcy, this entity that had regulation, that had supervision, that had oversight, had a future because of regulation. And that's the point that I think is most important for this committee to take away. As much as there's many issues to resolve and discuss and deliberate, regulation works, and it ultimately will protect customers.
I would agree with what former Chair Benham said, and I think the other entity of the FTX family was one in Japan that was also subject to pretty good regulation.
If I may, very briefly, Senator, I agree with the need to address this regulatory gap, as I mentioned, by providing the CFTC with comprehensive oversight over digital commodities. It's just taking us on a slightly different angle. I know for CCI, a lot of what we do is consumer education, Senator, so we would love to.
Welcome back to Jace Manhwa. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on our breakdowns of the stories the mainstream media doesn't want you thinking too hard about. Now, let's talk about what just went down in this Senate hearing. Senator Adam Schiff is pushing for what he calls strong regulation of digital currencies. Sounds fine on the surface, right? Protect consumers, make the rules clear, avoid fraud. But here's the problem. The same people who can't balance the federal budget want to control one of the fastest-growing, most innovative financial sectors on the planet. Schiff and his buddies are trying to convince us that only government power can protect us, when in reality government overreach is what destroys markets. The hearing touched on officials creating or endorsing their own digital currencies. Even Schiff admitted that would be a blatant conflict of interest. And I'll agree there. Politicians have no business running their own stablecoins while they're in office. We've already seen what happens when the politically connected use their power to enrich themselves. But here's the bigger issue. Instead of addressing corruption in Washington, they want to slap another layer of bureaucracy on regular Americans who are just trying to invest and innovate. Remember FTX? That disaster wasn't caused by too little regulation. It was caused by the wrong kind of regulation, politicians turning a blind eye, and the cozy connections between Wall Street, Washington, and woke corporations. The only entities that survived the collapse were the ones under real, clear rules. That should tell you something. Smart, limited regulation works. But that's not what Schiff is calling for. What he wants is a power grab. He wants unelected bureaucrats in the SEC and CFTC picking winners and losers, deciding which companies survive and which ones get buried. Panelists at the hearing kept saying Congress needs to act fast. Sure, act fast, but don't trample freedom. Don't crush innovation. Don't hand over the future of digital money to the same people who weaponize agencies against political enemies. We need transparency and consumer protection, but we also need to protect the free market. If Washington keeps tightening its grip, all they'll do is drive digital innovation overseas, while Americans get left behind. That's the core of this fight. Do we want a future where individuals can control their own money, or do we want a future where the government holds all the keys? Schiff's vision puts more power in D.C., and that should worry every American who values liberty. If you agree that freedom is worth protecting, make sure you subscribe to Jace Manhwa and share this video. The fight for financial independence is just getting started, and we're going to keep exposing how Washington tries to take it away.